crochet is more than just some wool and a hook. It's way more than that. Notions are a thing. Now, we're not talking whimsical desires, though granted we have the impulse to crochet, but rather other tools and equipment that can and will come in handy. So let's take a look at a few and see how they can help you with your craft. So first off, we have scissors or snips. A good pair of sharp needlework scissors are a nice staple. Yes, you can buy snips and you can buy cheaper scissors, but they don't tend to be very sharp or last very long, and sometimes there's imperfections. I really hope you could see that. You see it's bent? Now, they can also snag your work, as well as being not very sharp. They can snag your work and you can end up with frayed edges. A good quality pair of needlework scissors may set you back a little bit more than you wish to spend, but often come with a blade protector like are on these snips, and they'll last you a long time. So invest wisely, because they will stay with you and you'll be able to use them without replacing them for years to come. Yarn cutters. Many different designs on the market, from key rings and pendants to multi-use gauges and rings. These are especially useful if you hook on the go, where dealing with scissors can be too fiddly or dangerous. Inside their decorative casing is a very sharp blade, ready to slice through your yarn in just a stroke. Next, hook and needle gauges. A piece of metal or plastic or even wood with holes in. They may have you raising an eyebrow as to what on earth they're for, but can come in great use. Some even have a ruler designed in aid for you to determine gauge, which we'll come to in another episode. There are a few different designs on the market, so maybe trial and error to find the style that suits you. But if the gauge has holes in the middle like this, they are for knitting needles and inline hooks. You might want to refer to the previous lesson on hooks for knowing about those. Whereas the cutouts, like here, at the side, are more for your ergonomic and your novelty hooks. Yes, but what does it do? Well, as previously discussed, some hooks are lettered and some are numbered, and the number is the millimetre, the sizing of the hook. If you have a hook that has a letter and you've no clue what that means, bring out your trusty gauge. And without force, place your hook through each hole in turn till you find the correct diameter for your hook. This would say it's a 5 hook. It fits nicely, hardly any gap. This would be a 5 hook. And then you will know exactly the size of the hook, whether it is labelled or not on the hook itself. Stitch markers. You can have these where they're closed or they're open. You can have things like, oh, there's one, a lobster clasp, bulb style, safety clip, lever back. You find the type that suits you. Now, stitch markers can be made out of plastic or metal mainly, and can be brightly coloured, as you see, or even decorated up. These are used to mark the beginning or the end of a row or round, so you don't add or lose stitches, or even where a certain detail needs to be placed onto your project, i.e. increasing or decreasing. You can find stitch markers with beads, and some that even show you your hook size, whether that be letters or numbers. Now, the ones with the hook size on them is fab for keeping track of which hook goes with your project. Pins. Long pins with a brightly coloured head are mainly used when blocking, but we will come to that in another episode. Tape measures. Now, the best type of tape measure for a crocheter is the retractable style, marked with centimetres and inches. Different patterns will use units of measure, so it's good to have both. Now, when making garments, gauge is very important, so keeping a tab on your measurements is crucial. Whether you have a body measure like this one, or a plain like this, or a novelty one like these, a tape measure should be a staple in your notions keeper. Row counters. Depending on your crochet level and also depending on the style of wool you're using, it might be a struggle to recognise and count the rows or rounds of your work. Counters can be a nice and simple, like these, or digital, or even highly decorated like this. Certainly beats a bit of paper and pen and trying to find that pen that keeps on vanishing. If you have a row counter like this, it can be placed over the top of a standard hook if you are a pencil holder. Certainly wouldn't recommend it if you're a knife grip, but at least it's there, you can't lose it, and you can keep track of what you're doing. Bobbins. Now, these aren't for everybody, but if you're wanting to do any intarsia work, we'll get to that in another episode, then these will be of great use to you. Yarn, tapestry, darning needles. These are larger than the standard needles used for sewing, with a much larger eye. needed for sewing in your ends and sewing pieces together. These are blunt, but still, please be careful. And some are even bent, like this. These are called cranked needles, which are great for finding gaps between stitches. Pen, pencil, eraser, notebook, calculator. Making notes of pattern changes for future reference is a really good idea. Use a notebook to mark out new ideas or note things of inspiration. And a calculator is very handy to work out sizes if you need to make changes. And of course, making notes regarding wool used, size of hook and colour can come in handy when recalling how you made an item. Rolls and cases. Keeping your hooks and equipment protected and clean by storing them in a wrap, a cosmetic, or even pencil case is important. One for travelling is handy, as well as having your main hooks all in one place. A handy little item that aids keeping the right gauge throughout your project is a tension ring. These rings will sit on your first finger with the yarn threaded through, being held by your first finger and thumb. They do need adjusting to your size, but a tension ring can ultimately stop you from twisting your wrist while working, and that can lead to tendinitis. So look after yourself. Then we have comfort grips. A foam tube that you can pop over your standard hooks from the thumb rest down the handle. They can make holding a hook for far more comfortable whilst crocheting. And they can be swapped, changed easily when worn down. So, that's today's episode. Resources used are the 2 books linked in the description underneath this video. They are my Amazon affiliate links, should you choose to grab either book. And if you fancy taking a look at some accessories, my Love Crafts link is also there. Costs you nothing, but if you buy, I get a couple of pence back. So this has been Notions. My name is Lisa, and I thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.